Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, and today we're going to talk about psychology, but from a spiritual point of view. Many people have depressed attitudes and sad attitudes, and not only is it obviously not the right psychological point of view, but it actually affects them in a physical way also. So therefore, keeping a good attitude, a good spiritual attitude, focusing on something higher than we are, will affect us, of course, not only greatly in spiritual levels, but also in our physical planes too. So this is a letter from the Lubavitch Rebbe, passed away in 1994, but it was such a great scholar and helpful, that overcoming despondency and by having emotions act in tandem with belief and intellect. Let's see what he says. The Jewish men and women are generally believers, sons of believers. That is to say, they all believe and also comprehend that God alone conducts the entire world. Jews also believe with perfect faith that God is the essence of goodness. You surely heard as well as the saying of my father-in-law, the Rebbe of blessed memory, who related in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement about 250 years ago, that God loves every Jewish man and woman as a father loves an only child. In fact, he loves them even more than that. This analogy is used because we cannot imagine a greater love than that of a parent to an only child. The upshot of all the above is this, that all that God does is for the good. And since God desires that things be good for Jews not only spiritually, but materially as well, surely his goodness extends not only to the realm of the spiritual, but also the realm of the material. As mentioned before, Jews not only believe the above, but understand this rationally as well. It sometimes happens, however, that while this is believed and understood by the person, unfortunately this belief and understanding does not seep into the person's heart and emotions. The result of this is that certain untoward events cause them to feel heartbroken and despondent, God forbid. When, however, a person works on himself, endeavoring to have his belief and understanding filtered down into his emotions, this results in the realization and feeling that all that God does, he does for the good. Indeed, it cannot possibly not be so. This enables the individual to eventually be able to perceive and feel that matters are overtly and obviously good. For since God rewards the individual in kind, measure for measure, this attitude engenders God's revealing to all, and particularly to that individual himself, the goodness that lies concealed in the seemingly unpleasant event, so that it may be perceived for the good it truly is, even with the naked eye. I extend to you my prayerful wishes that very soon God should demonstrate to you the complete goodness that transpired in the past events in your life, in which you have failed to see until now, and that you will be truly joyful in all aspects, both spiritual and material. Next letter deals with dealing with setbacks and adversity. I surely need not emphasize to you that a true businessman is not one who can manage his affairs when conditions are favorable and matters are running smoothly and successfully, but also and even more so when he demonstrates that he knows how to deal with adversity and the occasional setback. Indeed, facing up to the challenge of adversity makes one a stronger, more effective executive than before, with an added dimension of experience and a keener acumen, which can be put to good use even when things begin to turn upwards. Sometimes a temporary setback is just what is needed for the resumption of the advance with greater vigor, as in the case of an athlete having to negotiate a hurdle where stepping back is necessary in order to facilitate the higher leap. Overcoming feelings of abandonment and having one's life depend entirely upon oneself. Surely you are correct in writing that you have already suffered enough. It is high time for everyone to be helped in all that they require, particularly with regard to good health. And I hope you will be able to convey to me glad tidings regarding your improved health. I wish to note the following, although I am not entirely sure whether this is wholly germane to your situation. Quite often, a person's feelings of self-assurance and security are dependent on something outside of and higher than himself. In simpler terms, they are dependent on his feelings of faith and betachon, trust in the Creator of the world as a whole, and a man's personal world in particular. After the earth-shaking events of our generation, the Rebbe was writing this as a side note right after the Holocaust, which have shaken various spiritual foundations and torn away many individuals from deeply rooted family and national traditions. It affected many people and caused them to think that they were left hanging in the wind without something to which they could anchor their lives. I'm referring here even to those of them who are believers. Their faith became something that was disconnected from their practical everyday life. They would think about their faith, recite Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, or Modani, the first prayer every morning that says, I thank you, God, for being alive. Often thinking about the meanings of the word, and yet they would go around the entire day with the thought that they were entirely alone, each of them drawing conclusions from these thoughts according to their nature and personality. The most realistic manner of helping such individuals regain their equilibrium is by revealing within them their familiar and ancestral traditions that even now remain concealed within their souls. They will then perceive that a man is not alone. Moreover, they will realize that man is the master of his lot only to a certain extent. For the most part, it depends on God. Consequently, the person needs not place all the burdens of his life on his own shoulders, feeling a tremendous weighty responsibility for everything that happens to him. Surely need not be filled with despair regarding specific matters or specific situations. When such individuals are connected with their fount of faith and betachon trust, without the slightest doubt remains deeply rooted in them, this will lead to their peace of mind and will enable them to live their lives in a healthier manner and better be able to fulfill the unique tasks that each and every individual has in life. All right, so we're talking a few beautiful, beautiful letters from the Rebbe. How a person has to, my words, keep rolling. Those are always my words. A person has to keep going and just know that they're doing the right things. And if there's some bumps in the road, then they just have to be above it and just keep on going over all obstacles. And the next letter is dwelling on life's misfortunes. You write about the terrible decree and misfortune that transpired. Understandably, you should uproot such thoughts and those like them, since A, they are without foundation. B, there is a celebrated adage uttered by the Rebbes, the Hasidic Rebbes, that, quote, think positively and you will see positive results. And C, it is known that the crucial determinant of a person's feelings when he is unsure of their validity is to ascertain how these feelings will affect his deeds and actions. We verily observe that the emotions you demonstrate regarding the harshness of the decree leads to a lessening of one's good deeds, as well as to despondency and loss of hope. These negative traits are not only prohibited and to be eliminated by spiritual reasons, for simple common sense reasons as well. In place of the above, it is my opinion that there lies a sacred obligation on all the friends of the family of the deceased to try over and over again to ensure that the children, Allah Shalom, man of the person that passed away, follow the path of Torah mitzvos, commandments in their daily lives. Understandably, it is specifically that this is of the greatest import, of crucial importance not only to the children of the deceased, but to the deceased himself. This is infinitely not more important than eulogies or memorial services. Surely I need not demonstrate to you the truth of such a simple matter, nor need I explain it at further length. And on the reverse of it, recognizing the good in life. From time to time I inquire about your well-being and receive news about your welfare from your children. I am surprised by the fact on a number of occasions that they have told me that your mood is not as it should be. In general, each and every one of us, when we research and ponder our lives, even during the last few years when matters do not seem to be going so well, will observe God's kindness and goodness up to and including matters that were not at all expected. In fact, the individual sees these things to an even greater extent than does another, as each person knows in his and or her own life. This should lead the person to recognize and acknowledge the blessings and goodness that he has perceived from God. And quite possibly on more than one occasion the person received these blessings without any effort on his part. This leads to the inevitable conclusion that if there do exist matters that are contrary to a person's desires, then it may very well be one of two things. Firstly, quite often a person does not truly know what is best for him, and if that which he desires will indeed bring him true benefit, or possibly the opposite. Even when the individual concludes that he knows with 100% certainty that the thing is good for him, he still cannot possibly know the reasons why he has not been granted these matters for the time being. This is analogous to the business world. A good and experienced business person will not sell his merchandise in an inopportune time, and this is the case even when he can realize a profit. For that he reckons that by selling his merchandise at a later date, he can realize a far greater profit. The same is so with God's goodness. If it is delayed, it is all probability because at a later time, God's beneficence will be in a much greater manner in both quantity and quality. This is particularly true in your case, where God has blessed you with true nachas, pleasure from your children, something which is not so often found. Since you and your wife can anticipate even more nachas and pleasure from your children, you're going around unhappy, something which cannot be interpreted as dissatisfaction, God forbid, with the manner in which God conducts your affairs, defies understanding. Moreover, to a certain extent, this is an expression of ingratitude to God. It is self-understood that I am not writing to you in order to admonish you, but to convince you that even according to the way you look at your life, the good things in your life are incomparably greater and more significant than those matters than you think are temporarily not as they should be. Bear in mind that when a businessman makes an accounting, he does not consider each item individually, but makes a total accounting of the inventory as a whole. And so too regarding the balance sheet of events in your life. It is my hope that the above few lines will move you to reconsider the calculation that you are making. I'm sure that when you will do so, you will reach a much happier conclusion than you have reached until now. And it's powerful. The Rebbe is always powerful. He always has the right words and the correct words, and he does it in a smooth way, but it gives it between your eyes. He tells it the way it is. No compromising. Experiencing goodness throughout one's life. I was astounded to read in the letter that I received from you that your husband's spirits are very low. How can this possibly be after the two of you have personally witnessed and experienced God's wonders and kindnesses? This experience should rouse you to great joy, for the shining countenance of a king, the King of Kings, blessed God, there is life. And yet, notwithstanding the above, to find oneself in a depressed state, surely there's nothing the machinations of the evil inclination. It is my strong hope that this down mood is but a temporary phenomena, and that it is already past. Moreover, we have been promised and assured by our sacred Torah, the Torah of life, that whenever one has been shown good kindness and goodness from above, it is for many long and good years. Surely this promise will be fulfilled with regard to you and your husband as well. Excuse me. I await very speedily glad tidings with regard to the above. So just keep your mood up, and the Rebbe keeps on quoting good things to people. Do not become crestfallen by life's challenges. Surely I need not explain at length to an individual like yourself that there is no room for feeling downhearted from your encountering some difficulties in the course of fulfilling your true task in life, that of, I was created to serve my Maker. Such feeling are from the machinations of the evil inclination that seeks to bring the person to a crestfallen state. In point of fact, the entire purpose of the evil inclination lies in man's vanquishing him. Indeed, this, that the evil inclination be vanquished, is also the desire of the evil inclination itself. It is to be understood from the Holy Zohar, which is a basic work of the Kabbalah, quoted in Tanya at the conclusion of chapter 29. Ultimately, even those matters that presently conceal and obscure goodness and holiness are themselves transformed into good, and not only in a matter of all that God does, he does for the good, that goodness will eventually result, but in a matter of this too is for the good, that the matter itself becomes good. This difference is to be understood from the story itself of Nachum Ish Gamzu, which his name is Nachum, the man who said, he always said, this is for the good, wherein the transformation of the earth into weapons served as overly revealed goodness, as opposed to the expression, all that God does, he does for the good, wherein it was merely for the good, but it was not transformed into actual goodness. This is particularly so as we are now commencing the days of the month in which there is the joyous festival of Purim. Truth is, I'm reading this letter, but we are right before Purim, about which our Holy Torah states the month, means this is the true of the entire month, that was transformed for the Jews into a month of joy and Yom Tov, and holiday. Now the concept of transformation during this month means that the entire month is propitious for transforming those untoward events excuse me again, into a form of joy and Yom Tov and holiday that is palpable, revealing to us. All right, we should only have good things happening to us. We have time for maybe one or two more letters, so we'll keep on rolling because these are beautiful, and I'm sure you find that also. Our challenges are commensurate with our abilities. It saddened me to learn that your health is not as it should be. Surely a large part is merely nerves and imagination, as well as the fact of not serving God with joy, which according to the ruling of the Rambam, Maimonides, quoted in the Code of Jewish Law, includes all aspects of a Jew's life, including eating, drinking, etc. Frankly, I am surprised, for proper faith in God compels one to conclude a camel is only loaded according to its ability to bear the load. God does not demand of a person divine service that is beyond its capacity. Since maintaining a healthy and robust body is an integral part of divine service, surely this service does not in and of itself diminish a person's health. The fact is that at times, excuse me, that there are obstacles and difficulties, And at times it seems, and possibly it is quite true, that the obstacles and difficulties are abundant. Nevertheless, of that which is explained in the Tanya, which is the basic work of Chabad philosophy on the verse, it says, I have to explain this. It says we're talking on a very deeper Kabbalistic mystical sense. But I'm going to give you the basic idea first, and that is that when Jacob wanted to get the blessings from his father Isaac said beforehand, this is the quote, and make me delicacies such as I love. So we're going to learn it on a mystical term. It is known that the term delicacies is written in the plural, for there are two forms of delicacies and delights that one can give God. Spiritual service does not require battling evil, and service that does require a battle. However, even in the latter instance, one goes to battle with a joyous march, as known from a talk of my father-in-law. And he talked about there that you have a marching band or trumpets in an army. Well, what's an army? An army is not entertainment. They're fighting people. What's a band? What's music have to do with an army? It's not entertainment business. It's fighting unit. So it's interesting if you think about it. And the reason is, and that's what the previous rabbi said, there is, of course, a reason for it. Because when you go and you do something, and something obviously serious like going into battle, that you have to do it with joy. And then when you hear a march and you hear music, of course, you feel good when you hear music. That'll give you the advantage of going to battle with joy. And that's why there are marching bands in the Army and the Navy. Again, you can say, what's with bands with the Army? But that's the reason behind it. And that's also with us also in our personal levels, that even though things are difficult and there may be battles, nevertheless you go approach them with joy. Thus, regarding spiritual service requires a battle, it is to be done with joy. And it should not affect one's health, although it should be a matter of concern. The person has, like the Rebbe says, the person has to take care of their health. Very important. Now, we're not saying to forget about your health and only deal with the spiritual, but we're just saying that spirituality could be a component to your good health. But like I say at the beginning, I would say that a person with a broken arm, you don't start praying, you just go to the emergency room and get it fixed. All right, I think we have time for another letter, so we will do that. Even after true tragedy strikes, one should combat downheartedness. It pained me to learn that you are still in a downhearted mood, and according to my understanding, this is the mood in your household as well. I don't want to go on at length and enter into a debate as to whether your attitude is correct or not. Understandably, it does not take much contemplation to appreciate why you are all in such a frame of mind about the tragedy that occurred. May we all never know of such events again. The above notwithstanding, Jews in general and Hasidim in particular as believers are expected to unequivocally cleave to God, keeping their relationship with Him open, as the verse states, and you who cleave to the Lord your God are all alive today. Life, true life, does not mean simply marking time. It means that one's life lacks for nothing, with both the person and his family possessing their entire spiritual and material needs. Since the possibility exists that, God forbid, they have not earned this generous bounty from God, therefore the Holy Zohar, told you before, Zohar is the basic work written 2,000 years ago of Jewish mysticism, tenders the advice. This physical world and man in general, exist by the radiant countenance, the joy and positivity that is emitted from below. In like manner, they then draw down upon themselves the same qualities from above, Man's joy draws down a corresponding measure of joy from above. Concisely stated, when one strengthens himself in his betachon, his trust in God, that he will surely provide those matters with which a person can be in good spirits, happy and joyous, doing so in such a powerful manner that his betachon, his trust, affects his daily life. Then one draws down this divine beneficence from above. One of them verily sees that his betachon, his trust, was justified. May God help you that your wife and your entire family experience this as quickly as possible and in a discernible manner as possible. Well, a very good show today. I think that I personally love these letters from the Rebbe, and hopefully that's why I read them, because I hope they're beneficial to you also, and I'm sure they are if you take them to heart. Person has to have trust in God. It's good for every person. It's a universal message, and it's also a message that we can take in our everyday lives. We don't have to separate, well, that's nice to be religious, but listen, everybody, you go through life, you have to be happy and not depressed, and that should affect your trust in God, should affect your everyday life in that sense. And like I say, and I'm not a doctor to say that, but other people have written that a good attitude does actually affect your physical health. Not everything maybe, but in any case, many, many things. If you have a good attitude, and that's really with some medical science also. My sister is an oncologist. She lives in Pittsburgh, and obviously an oncologist, doctor of cancer. We should know from it. And she just says clearly, and she's really a straight scientist to tell you the truth. But on the other hand, what she says is that I see when the patients come in with a good positive attitude, and they may be slight physically, they're going to continue on. And you get you'd think a bigger person, that they would be living longer. But once they say, I've had it, it's enough, I give up hope, then they go downhill very, very, very fast. So in any case, we should only have good attitudes, positive attitudes, and we should have a good life spiritually and also physically. And thank you for tuning into the Jewish View.